Welcome to South Asia Today, a show that provides you the glimpses of South Asia. I'm your host Yeshi. Here are the headlines. Nepal starts inoculating teenagers with anti-COVID vaccines. Tokyo Metropolitan Government develops unique model for flood disaster management. And Buddhists in India's Ladakh celebrate vibrant Thikse Gustor festival. Let's begin the show. The government of Nepal has kicked off vaccine drive for teenagers in Nepal and is inoculating them with the Pfizer BioNTech doses it received from the United States last month. The decision was taken in the wake of massive resurgence of mutated coronavirus in European and American countries. The country will receive more doses from India in coming days. However, the concerning news from the Himalayan nation is that it is not keeping proper track of those who have been vaccinated, which has resulted in several of them not receiving their second jab.
Teenagers aged between 12 and 18 stood in line to get jabbed as the government of Nepal kicked off a vaccination drive with the US-donated Pfizer vaccine for teenagers. Hundreds of students studying in secondary and higher secondary levels of schools stood under the basking sun, waiting for their turn to be inoculated. Nepal is one among the few countries that are inoculating their citizens below 18. However, a lot of others, including its neighbor India, have come up with a plan to jab the rest of them in near future. While a small section of the society is still reluctant, the government of Nepal has by and large been able to come over vaccine hesitancy. Students say they were scared with the kind of resurgence and mutation the virus has displayed over time, and they are happy to have been jabbed.
First, I am very scared about COVID-19, but now I am feeling secure.
Kathmandu has received over 100,000 doses under the COVAX program and will receive several thousand doses from its neighbor and ally India in immediate future. A shipment that was to leave on 22nd November from India's Serum Institute of India was halted after the Nepalese side asked for a halt owing to some preparation issues and will likely land Kathmandu in a few days. Guardians, however, are happy with the fact that their children too will have immunity against the virus that has mutated several times since its outbreak in China in late 2019.
हजुर त्यो त अब सुरुमा त अब आफुलाई भ्याक्सिन लगाउने भन्दा पनि अब यो खालको बच्चाहरुलाई चाँडै लगाइदिन पाए हुन्थ्यो जस्तो चाहिँ नि अब लागेको थियो किनभने अब उनीहरुले अब आफ्नो प्रब्लमहरु बताउन सक्दैन हैन केही गरी भइ पनि हाल्यो भने पनि अनि त्यही भएर फर्स्टमा अब हामीलाई भन्दा पनि उनीहरुको लागि जरुरी थियो तर अब ढिलै भए पनि अब लगाउन पाइयो अहिले सम्म अब हामीले सेफली नै राख्यौं उलाई स्कुलहरु पनि अब खुल्ला भए पनि पठाएनौ हैन अब जेस ढिलो भयो नि लाउन पाउँदा चाहिँ धेरै खुसी लागेछ.
The bigger concern for Nepal, however, is that a large number of Nepali residents who took the first dose of either AstraZeneca or Verocell vaccine have not taken the second dose within the prescribed gap. Reports say 10,000 to 15,000 people have still not sought second doses, and even more alarming is the fact that the Ministry of Health and Population does not know the whereabouts of the people who took the first dose of vaccine and have missed second. The Health Ministry does not have a database to track the people who are not seeking the second dose. Critics call it a failure when they say an ideal model of India was lying right in front of them, which has digitally maintained data of every single individual who has been vaccinated. Meanwhile, India's Bharat BioNTech, which has developed WHO-approved Covaxin, is reportedly set to roll out its vaccines for teenagers. Despite being the second most populated country, India has partially vaccinated nearly 80% of its citizens and is resuming its Vaccine Maitri program aimed at sending vaccines to its allies and those who are still deprived of it.
Moving on. It's been over 100 days since Taliban swept to power in Afghanistan, and the human rights situation in the country is in doldrums. The new forms of epidemics they are facing are unprecedented unemployment and acute poverty. And despite repeated warnings from international organizations of financial collapse in the country, they have got little to nothing in response. Observers say if the world continues to watch everything like it has done so far, then the country is certainly heading towards a human catastrophe.
Kabul residents say their 100 days after the Taliban takeover have been extremely difficult, with concerns growing over the security and education of girls. They say the Taliban, which had made promises of altering their position with regards to women, have not shown any change since sweeping to power in August. Apart from the unemployment rate that has spiked suddenly, there are expanding shortages of food and money. With US freezing the Afghan money, the situation has only worsened. The United Nations has repeatedly warned since the Taliban took over that Afghanistan's economy is on the brink of a collapse that would likely fuel a refugee crisis, but little have been achieved in that direction.
100 روز به این خاطر به ما مشکل گذشت که ما معاش نداشتیم و دیگه ای که امنیت درست نبود، هنوز هم انتحاری میشه. ما به تشویش هستیم. دیگه اولادای ما هنوز هم دخترها به مکتب نمیرن، درس نیست.
Red Cross has expressed its disappointment over sanctions and donor freezes, which it says are cutting off basic services in Afghanistan, and they called on donors to find creative ways to prevent a massive humanitarian crisis. Afghans say they have no clue as to what their future would be like if the current situation persists for longer time. They say nothing could be predicted under Taliban control.
از نگاه روحی بسیاری مردم تحت فشار قرار دارن، چرا که خیلی ها نگران آینده خودشان است، نمیفهمن که خب در آینده چی چیز پیش خواهد اومد. با گفته بعضیا که افغانستان حالا جای شده که عجایب، یعنی هیچ چیز قابل پیش بینی نیست.
One of the Taliban's first acts since taking over the country on 15th August 2021 was to reassure Afghans of their safety. The Taliban announced a general amnesty and said no revenge would be taken in the group's first press conference on 17th August. This was significant given the terror wrought by the Taliban in the past 20 years of conflict and the deeply ingrained memories of the Taliban's first period of rule from 1996 to 2001. However, none of those promises were kept. Reprisal attacks, sanctions on women, hardline Sharia law, and anything even remotely against the Taliban are met with brutality. Since 15th August, the crisis in Afghanistan has been the focus of many international fora, including UN Security Council meetings, the UN Human Rights Council's 31st Special Session and 48th Regular Session, and G7 and G20 meetings. However, the international community has thus far failed to chart an adequate path for the protection of rights and to hold perpetrators of human rights violations accountable.
Now we take a look at some happenings in Asia in a segment called Asia Watch.
Thousands of university students have taken to the streets of Suleimania in Iraq's semi-autonomous Kurdistan region, protesting against grant cuts. Security forces used tear gas and water cannons to disperse protesters. On Monday alone last week, 18 people were injured during the protests, including both security forces and protesters. Students are protesting for the reintroduction of a monthly payment of at least 50,000 Iraqi dinars, which is about $34, as well as lack of services in university dormitories. The grants had been cut since 2014 when Iraq's Kurdistan region witnessed an economic slowdown as the Islamic State took over swathes of Iraqi territory.
A visual artist, Manveer Singh, created a sculpture from plastic waste at an Indian beach to raise awareness about its impact on Olive Ridley sea turtles. The 15-feet plastic sculpture, shaped like a turtle, seems like to be going towards the sea, Singh said. With his depiction, he wants to depict that instead of turtles, plastic is entering the seas. Odisha hosts the largest nesting grounds for these endangered species in the world. Millions of Olive Ridley turtles hatch at Odisha's beaches every season. However, confusing plastic waste for jellyfish or food, many turtles end up eating them, resulting in a painful death. According to a prediction of world scientists, at current rate, the amount of plastic in world oceans is expected to become more than the amount of fishes in them by the year 2050.
Israel kicked off a nationwide campaign to vaccinate children aged 5 to 11 last Tuesday, hoping to beat down a recent rise in coronavirus infections. A fourth wave of infections that hit Israel in June began subsiding in September. But over the past 2 weeks, the R or reproduction rate of the virus that had remained below 1 for 2 months began climbing and has now crossed the threshold, indicating the virus could again be spreading exponentially. Daily cases have also crept up over the past few days, with half the confirmed infections presently among children aged 11 and younger. Israel's 9.4 million population is relatively young, with around 1.2 million children in the 5 to 11 age group. By November, that group comprised more than a third of new cases, according to Health Ministry data. Policymakers also say that the vaccination of younger children is meant first and foremost to protect their individual health and not just to stop the transmission of the virus. A poll by Israeli healthcare provider Maccabi found that 41% of parents to children aged 5 to 11 were positive they will vaccinate their children, while 21% were still undecided and 38% will not vaccinate their children.
Moving on, Japan has always been a place of attraction for tourists around the world. Whether its technologies, new innovations, landscape and a wide range of cuisine make this country a place worth visiting. Recently, Tokyo Metropolitan Government developed a unique model for flood disaster management. Also, Japanese company has come up with a new flavor of soft serve ice cream in Japan. Let's take a glance.
Tokyo is a densely populated city. It has unique flood control facilities that help prevent rainwater disasters. To prevent flooding during the rainy season, there is a huge underground water storage facility in the city.
都市化が進展しますと、地面がですね、アスファルト、コンクリート、そういったもので覆われていくということがございます。降った雨が土の中に染み込みにくくなっているという状況でございます。近年ゲリラ豪雨でしたり、大きな台風が来ていると、そういった状況がありまして、昔よりもですね、雨の量が増えていると、そういったものに対応するために、下水の雨水を排除する能力を増強する幹線を整備をしたりですね、降った雨を一時的に貯留をしておく雨水貯留施設、そういったものを整備をして浸水対策を行っております。
Wada Yayoi Trunk Sewer is one of the largest rainwater storage lines in Japan. It is a huge storage facility with an inner diameter of 8.5 meters, a length of 2.2 kilometers, and a storage capacity of 150,000 tons. To prevent noise from falling energy, the system also uses a drop shaft that rotates and drops water to the bottom so that it does not damage the facility's power. This is a model of Wada Yayoi Trunk Sewer. In times of heavy rainfall, the river rises and flows into the sewers to prevent flooding. On Wada Yayoi Trunk Sewer, water is poured into the reservoir to prevent disaster. The drop shaft method allows water to move smoothly.
令和元年の東日本台風の際にはですね、和田弥生幹線とその集水管合わせて、貯留量約15万トン、すべてですね、満杯になるというような形になりまして、地域の浸水被害の貢献に大きく貢献しているものというふうに考えております。他の地域も含めてですね、そういった対策をしていかないといけないというところはまだありますので、浸水対策を行って被害の軽減に努めてまいりたいというふうに考えます。
Tokyo's sewage system is prepared in a way that prevents all kinds of rainwater disasters and guarantees life safety to the citizens. Located in Gifu Prefecture, Hida Takayama is a traditional wooden shopping street that dates back to the Edo era. It is designated as a Japanese traditional building preservation area. Many tourists visit here to enjoy the beautiful landscape. A souvenir shop Hida Komachi in the area sells special ice cream. The shop's original product is jam and sauce, which are prepared from local ingredients. Another popular sweet is ice cream, which is prepared with cow milk and peach.
地元の特徴あるソフトクリームを作りたいと思いまして、それで飛騨牛乳を使ったソフトクリームを作りたいと思って作りました。飛騨の高原で取れた牛乳をなるべくそのまま成分を無調整で、低温殺菌したものをそのまま素材の味を生かした牛乳になっております。独自で自分で考えまして、その後日清さんと相談しながら開発しました。飛騨牛乳の味を生かすために、その飛騨牛乳とその他の原料のバランスを考えるのがとても苦労しました。
Hida Komachi soft ice cream is filled with flavors of chestnut cookies. Tourists enjoy the rich and refreshing taste of this ice cream.
濃厚なんですけど、後味がさっぱりしてて美味しかったです。
程よい甘さで食べやすくてとても美味しかったです。
飛騨高山は古い町並みや建物だけではなく、地元の美味しい食材があります。飛騨牛乳を使った飛騨牛乳ソフト、あと飛騨桃を使った飛騨桃ソフトというのがあります。ぜひ海外の皆様にはこれらのソフトクリームを食べながら、高山の古い町並みを楽しんでいただきたいと思います。
The delicious soft ice cream developed by Hida Komachi and Nisei is a popular delicacy among tourists.
Colorful celebrations, tasty treats, great hospitality and communal peace mark the celebration of Jammu and Kashmir festivals, which successfully portray the diversity of Indian cultures. The beautiful valleys of Kashmir, the shrines of Jammu and peaceful monasteries of Ladakh put together a series of festivals in northern India throughout the year. One among these is Ladakh's Thikse Gustor festival, which was recently celebrated with great zeal and enthusiasm. Have a look. With the rhythmic beats of religious musical instruments and monks roped up in traditional costumes, India's northern Union territory of Ladakh recently hosted the two-day Thikse Gustor festival. Gustor means sacrificing, while Thikse is the monastery where this festival takes place. Hundreds of spectators, including local residents and tourists, converged at the monastery to get themselves immersed into the festive spirit. Celebrated on the 18th and 19th of the 9th Tibetan calendar, the highlight of this festival is the colorful charm dance performed by the monks of the monastery, who wear masks representing protectors, gods and goddesses. The custom is believed to ward off any evil spirit from the village. Tourists who were present at the festival expressed elation at colorful traditions of Ladakh.
ये मोनास्टिक में ये फंक्शन बहुत अच्छा है। वो पूरा यहाँ पूरा टेम्पल्स अच्छा है, पूरा बुद्ध भगवान का संस्कृति बहुत अच्छा है। लद्दाख वेरी नाइस प्लेस, इधर अच्छा क्लाइमेट अच्छा है, तो क्या बोलते हैं यहाँ आदमी अच्छा है, यहाँ दुकान वेरी नाइस, अच्छा आदमी है बिल्कुल, यहाँ आदमी ईमानदारी आदमी, वेरी नाइस लद्दाख।
The protective faces of the deities, which otherwise remain covered for the rest of the year, are open for public only during this festival. The early morning prayers are conducted every day, and at the conclusion of the event, a special ceremony called Agram is performed. The entire process of Agram portrays the symbolic assassination of traitor King Langdarma of Tibet by Buddhist monk during mid-9th century. The effigy of Langdarma is made, and through elaborate rituals all the negative spirits are transferred into it by a sacrificial substitute, after which the effigy is burnt ritually.
यहाँ हमारे जगत की जितना भी हमारे प्रॉब्लम में या दुख के समुद्र में हम लोग डूबा हुआ है, तो इसका मेन कारण, मेन मकसद ये है कि हमारा जो सेल्फ ग्रेसिंग और सेल्फ चेरेसिंग की वजह से होता है। तो जो सेल्फ ग्रेसिंग और सेल्फ चेरेसिंग यानी आत्मा धरान होते हैं, वो पूरा एक क्या कहते हैं लिंगा के रूप में यहाँ आग में डाला हुआ करते हैं। तो इसका मकसद ये है कि जितने भी हमारा प्रॉब्लम्स का रूप जो है हमारा सेल्फ ग्रेसिंग और सेल्फ चेरेसिंग होते हैं, इसकी वजह से हमारे नाना प्रकार का दुख हुआ करते हैं। तो इसके लिए इसकी वजह से भिक्षु मंक्स यहाँ पूजा भी किया करते हैं, साथ ही साथ एक लिंगा के रूप में पूरा जो हमारे दुखों है, जो उसका दुख का कारण है, वो पूरा आग में डाला दिया जाता है। इसका मकसद यही है।
The beautiful monastery of Ladakh becomes a perfect tourist destination, especially during this annual festival of Thikse Gustor, which is celebrated with great faith and devotion by the people of the region to live a meritorious life. The festival represents the rich culture and traditional heritage of Ladakh and gives a great experience of pure country life away from the hustle and bustle of the city. It's time for me to wrap up today's episode. We will be back next week at the same time. This is Yeshi signing off on behalf of the entire production team of South Asia Today. Goodbye and take care.